Hello. So today we are going to look into understanding ESG and sustainability in risk management for SMEs. So the International Labor Organization estimates that SMEs are 50% of the GDP and are vital to the global economy, often described as the backbone of economic growth and innovation. With a turnover up to 50 million euros or $50 million and an employee headcount of 250 employees, these enterprises face unique challenges and also opportunities. One of the critical areas that SMEs must face continuously is risk management. Two prominent concepts in this field are ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, and sustainability. While these terms are often used interchangeably, they refer to distinct aspects of risk management. So in this video, I aim to clarify, if you may, the difference between ESG and sustainability, especially in the context of SME and other small medium enterprises. And I will attempt to explain the importance of segregation of duties too, which is another area that not many people are fully aware of what that means. So let's go and dive into it. So the first thing that we need to understand is the historical context and evolution of ESG and sustainability to help appreciate their significance in modern business practices. The origin of ESG, or the term ESG, was first introduced in 2004 in the report titled Who Cares Wins, initiated by the United Nations. The study reported that incorporating environmental, social, and governance elements into financial markets encouraged economically viable and more sustainable markets and improved results for communities. So there's a distinction that we had to, two distinctions that we had to do. One is ESG and traditional risk management. Traditional risk management focuses primarily on financial and operational risks, while ESG encompasses a broader range of factors, including environmental and social risk. And ESG provides a more comprehensive view of potential risk and opportunities. And the other thing that we have to consider ESG and CSR, or the corporate social responsibility. While ESG and CSR are related, they are not the same. CSR refers to the actions taken by a company to have a positive impact on society, which can be part of the ESG strategy. So ESG is a broader framework that includes environmental and governance aspects along with the social responsibility. And then on the other hand, we have the evolution of sustainability. So sustainability as a concept has its roots in the environmentalism, which gained significant momentum during the 60s and 70s. In 1987, the Brundtland Report, formerly known as a Common Future, by the World Commission on Environment and Development, provided one of the most widely accepted definitions of sustainability. And it reads like this: development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's a very nice definition. So what we had so far. So now we have set the scenario. So we have ESG, risk management, CSR, and sustainability. Well, we like to look into see how it looks together side by side. ESG risk management in the context of SMEs and the roles of ESG and risk management. That's in one side. And in the other side, we want to see what is sustainability and how it looks in the context of SMEs and the role of sustainability in risk management. So these two things by the side. So let's start with the ESG and risk management. So As we mentioned, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. These criteria evaluate a company's operations and their impacts on society and the environment. ESG has become a crucial aspect of risk management, helping businesses identify potential risk and opportunities that traditional financial analysts might overlook. So in the environmental section, the criteria says how a company interacts with the environment. It includes factors such as energy use, waste management, pollution, natural resources conservation, and the company's overall environmental footprint. On the social aspect, the criterion examines how a company drives and manages relationships with employees, suppliers, customers, and communities where it operates. It includes labor practices, human rights, health and safety, and community engagement. And in the governance portion, this criterion looks at the company's leadership, executive pay, audits, internal controls, and shareholder rights. It focuses on the standards for running the company, including ethics, transparency, and accountability. So what is the ESG in the context of the SMEs? So for SMEs, integrating ESG principles can be challenging, but at the same time can be immensely beneficial. Despite not having dedicated departments or resources for ESG initiatives, SMEs can practically apply ESG in their operations. This can lead to improved risk management, enhanced reputation, and better access to capital. As we mentioned in other videos, that millennial investors are more keen to look into ESG factors or the reports of the companies reporting on ESG for their investment mandate than other traditional companies that don't have these kind of things. And here's how ESG can be practically applied in the SME space, making them feel capable to and ready to implement these practices. So in terms of environmental management, an example will be a small manufacturing company that can adopt energy efficient technologies and reduce waste. This lowers operation costs and mitigates risk related to regulatory compliance and environmental impact. In terms of social responsibility, a medium-sized enterprise in the retail sector can ensure fair and safe working conditions and wages. This can improve employee morale, reduce turnover, and enhance the company reputation. And these are examples, the manufacturer and the retailer, though what I mentioned in here is interchangeable. So looking into employee morale, reduce turnover, and enhance the company's reputation is the same for a manufacturer, retailer, a service provider. All are looking for the same thing in terms of their social responsibility too, and the same as their how it's called, environmental management. And the same as the governance practices. As an example, I brought an SME in the technology sector that can implement robust data protection policies to safeguard customer information, thereby avoiding legal penalties and building customer trust. But if you look into all organizations, not only technology companies have to protect the data of their customers, also the manufacturers, the retailers, the service providers, et cetera, et cetera. So as you see, these examples are interchangeable to any layer of or services or verticals that you can imagine. So what is the role of ESG in risk management then? So ESG criteria provide a structured approach to identifying and mitigating risk. So by considering environmental, social, and governance factors, SMEs can anticipate potential issues and have processes and systems to address them proactively. This not only helps in risk mitigation, but also enhances the company's reputation, attracts investors, and improves access to capital that we mentioned earlier. For instance, understanding environmental risk can help a company prepare for supply chain disruptions due to climate change. Social risk can be managed by fostering a positive workplace culture, while governance risk can be mitigated through transparent and ethical business practices. So this is pretty much on the ESG and how it relates to an SME. Let's look into sustainability now. So what is sustainability again, and defining this sustainability, what we are aiming to understand here. So sustainability in business refers to operating to ensure long-term viability while minimizing negative impacts on the environment and society. As we mentioned earlier in the Brundtland report, the definition of sustainability is about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And how this can be done? There are three pillars here that we have to consider. So one is economic sustainability, the second is the environmental sustainability, and the third is the social sustainability. The economic sustainability is ensuring the businesses remain profitable and economically viable over the long term. So the aim is to a long-term run at a profitable levels. In terms of environmental sustainability, is reducing the ecological footprint by managing resources efficiently and adopting green practices. And the social sustainability is fostering a positive impact on society, including fair labor practices, community engagement, and ethical business conduct. So with this overall looking or look of what is sustainability and the pillars, so how does sustainability look in the context of an SME? So for SME, sustainability involves adopting practices that contribute to the long-term health of the business, society, and environment. And if you allow me, here are some practical strategies. One is resource efficiency. And example, and I mentioned earlier, these examples are on particular companies or settings, though are interchangeable across all the verticals because pretty much the same. The same I'm referring that actually the principles are the same that can be applied across all verticals, given their peculiar ways to operate our businesses. But anyway, so an example of resource efficiency is a small cafe that can source its ingredients locally and use biodegradable packaging, reducing transportation emissions and supporting local farmers. You may say, well, local coffee beans are imported, so it's difficult to do that. Yes, true. Though we can look into who are our suppliers and the supply chain. Where it's coming from? Is it from the fair trade organization or certificate? Which are the communities where these coffee beans are coming from? Are fair wages considered? Human rights observed? Labor or child labor is forbidden, etc., etc. So there are many things actually when you're sourcing products. You can start to ask a few questions to make sure that actually these resources are coming from sources that actually are sustainable in the long term. The other thing actually to look into sustainability is a community engagement. So again, a medium-sized construction company can invest in local community projects, such as building parks or supporting schools, enhancing its social license to operate and build strong community relationships. And here I have a very good example of a community manager that recovered an old school and the grounds around it. And through grants and other community efforts, they managed to put together a wonderful community center. So they repurposed the house, they rebuilt it, and they prepared the grounds. So now the community that before wouldn't have a place to go, if you may, in certain activities like a theater, book clubs, small activities in terms of community, This is a country community, by the way, so it's are not in the city where you have everything very handy, and really helped with these construction companies that were local to create a better community. And there you are. That's a way to do certain things that today are derelict, if you may, and making them more sustainable. And then we have the third leg, which is economic resilience. And an example of this is an SME in the fashion industry that can diversify its business model to include physical stores and online presence, maintaining revenue streams, and even during economic downturns. So we know that in the pandemic, the world almost closed down, and online business flourished and accelerated in a way that nobody expected. So having this diversification also can make the business sustainable. So what is the role of sustainability in risk management? The practices help SMEs build resilience against various risks by reducing dependency on non-renewable resources. A company can mitigate the risk of supply chain disruptions. The social sustainability efforts, such as fair labor practices, can reduce the risk of strikes and improve workforce stability. And the economic sustainability ensures that the business can withstand financial pressures and remain viable over the long term. These emphasize on the role of ESG and sustainability in risk management that can make SMEs feel more secure and prepared for different challenges in the coming future. Very briefly, I'm going to mention something that is very important and many times is not applied for whichever reasons. But this is the segregation of duties, or SOD, which is an internal control mechanism that aims to prevent errors and fraud by dividing responsibilities among different individuals. It ensures that no single individual controls all aspects of any critical transaction process. So for SMEs, segregation of duties can be challenging due to limited staff. However, it remains crucial for effective risk management implementing segregation of duties. How is going to help? It helps in preventing fraud. And an example is in a small business, the person who processes payments is a different person from the one who reconciles the bank statements. So this is reducing the risk of embezzlement. And might be that you have a bookkeeper that is a different person that they have the signature, or the signatures or the people signing in the bank accounts are different from the people that are doing the bookkeeping. And also ensures accuracy. So in a small company, one employee that enters data should have somebody else that controls or reviews that data entry. So reducing the likelihood of errors and ensuring data integrity. And enhancing accountability also is a big and very important point. So companies that have expenses and they have approval for those expenses should have another person that manage the actual expenditure, enhancing the accountability and transparency. So with that it's difficult for a company like have I don't know, 10 employees, 15, 20 employees. But it's a good practice to start to have this differentiation inside your organization, and mostly because some of these companies at one point they are going to merge to another company, or are going to be sold, or will be intended to be sold to another an investor, or to another group, etc., etc. And having these clear guidelines and separations of responsibilities and and this segregation of duties will help also to understand how ethically how this operation have been run very responsibly. So the things are in the banks are reconciled by a group of people that actually other people that are doing the payments and actually are not let's say utilizing company funds to fund their, for example, a gazebo at home. That we've seen this happening many times. Actually, case that happened last year. So we were doing due diligence in a company, and in the repair and maintenance, it was an invoice of £18,000. And what happened is that actually there was a gazebo that the owner decided to put in their house, and was put through as a company expense. Very interesting. Anyway, so now I would like to touch in 4 real cases in terms of ESG, sustainability, social responsibility, of 4 large companies worldwide. As I go mention them, probably you can relate to them. The reason of these cases is because sometimes, or many times, I'm thinking, what the large corporations are forced to do by regulators, SMEs today, they don't have that enforcement or this pressure to enforce these kind of things. But more and more, we've seen, particularly in investing, that actually companies that have certain pressures or certain requirements in terms of regulation to provide, in terms of traceability of what they do, how they do it, is passing many of these things to the SMEs. So the SMEs, as they get more prepared and ready for these kind of things, is the better for them, because actually they are going to be more appealing for investment, for example, or loans, or a line of credit, or you name it, than companies that may not have these reports or KPIs, etc. So I'm going to mention these 4 cases because I think that are important to have an idea how or what the big corporations did so far. And as any idea, you have half of the work done, because you can download this information from their corporate pages and then web pages, and then kind of a reverse engineer to your own company. And I say, well, many of these things can be applicable if we get adapt a few of these things, and pretty much you're going to look like a very good into many stakeholders, because you have the KPIs, you have the reporting, you can show the traceability, you have certificates, etc., that might not require the investment that the big corporations have to do, but actually can be adapted as you know what they had to do and what is the philosophy or the requirements, and how they articulated those requirements and how they put it into the market and in their own practices. So here we go. Case number 1 is Patagonia. Probably you know Patagonia is an outdoor apparel company. It's renowned for his commitment to ESG and sustainability. The company invests in environmental conservation, ensures fair labor practices, and maintains high governance standards. For SMEs, Patagonia is an example of how integrating ESG can lead to business success and a loyal customer base. Very interesting. So how they address the environmental initiatives, Patagonia Worn Wear program encouraged customers to buy used Patagonia gear to trade in their gear for store credit. This initiative promotes recycling and reduce waste. Worn wear are second-hand clothes, if you may, or people that haven't used their gear too much, or probably they bought it for one particular occasion, so they encourage people to sell it in their own stores, so they know how to, pretty much is a recycling of clothing, if you may. So the social responsibility here is the company is known for its commitment to fair labor practices, including transparency about its supply chain. And in terms of governance, Patagonia's governance practices includes a focus on ethical business conduct and corporate transparency. Ben and Jerry's, probably you know them because it's an ice cream manufacturer that incorporates sustainability in its operation by sourcing fair trade ingredients and supporting various social causes. This approach enhances their brand image and mitigates risk related to supply chain disruptions and regulatory changes. So in terms of environmental impact, Ben and Jerry's uses environmental friendly packaging and has committed to reduce its carbon footprint. In the social impact, the company is actively involved in social justice campaigns and supports various community initiatives. And in terms of governance, Ben and Jerry's governance is committed to transparency and ethical decisions making. I have a third case with IKEA. So it's a global furniture retailer. IKEA, you know, by this furniture that is flat pack. But they are committed to sustainability throughout its supply chain. The company aims to become climate positive by 2030 by reducing more greenhouse gas emissions than the IKEA value chain emits. In terms of environmental sustainability, IKEA sources wood and cotton from more sustainable sources, promotes renewable energy, and use recycled materials. And this is true because in Sweden, I got that from somebody that been in the factory. All the dust and that is collected from the cuts they're not thrown away. It's recycled and to make it compact again. So it's used and reused as much as they can. So pretty much is a very good idea because actually many of these furnitures from IKEA are compacts, MDF, I think it's called, which is a kind of a dust with glue and other treatments that is not wood in reality, is pretty much a compact of something. But it serves a purpose, and all that dust that probably will be thrown away in some landfill and create more waste and emissions now is recycled and used to make more furniture. Very clever. In terms of social sustainability, the company supports fair labor practices and community development projects as an IKEA governance. Their policies emphasize ethical business practices and transparency. And last example that I have today is Unilever. So you know Unilever, well, probably you don't know Unilever, but they have many, many brands in many different chemical and food products. So it's a consumer goods company that has embedded sustainability into his business strategy through the Unilever Sustainability Living Plan. So in the terms of environmental initiatives, Unilever has set ambitious goals to reduce its environmental footprint, including halving the environmental impact of its products. And in the social responsibility, the company works to improve health and well-being, enhance livelihoods, and promote gender equality. And in terms of governance, Unilever's governance structure includes robust overseeing and mechanisms to ensure compliance with sustainability goals. So these are practical examples, are all in the webpage of these companies. So you can pretty much Google it very quickly and you will get a very, very interesting documentation and what's the vision, what is the mission, etc., and how they did it. In particular in the shareholders reports, they have a very interesting data there in terms of the sustainability initiatives that I think that are worth the time to read it, because many of these things are not that difficult to implement in an SME with the current teams that the company have, if the things are organized in a more efficient way. And let's look into how to implement some of these strategies for SMEs. So due to resources constraints that we mentioned, implementing ESG and sustainability practices can be challenging for SMEs. However, with a strategic approach, these practices can be integrated efficiently. So let's look, and this is my attempt to, after collecting some information, I just put it from steps as a guideline for ESG implementation. So it doesn't mean that actually is a perfect plan, but at least you will have a kind of a starting point, if you may, and you can discuss this with your teams and see if this is workable for your organization, or you might need more steps or less steps. So pretty much you have to do an assessment. That's the first steps, is conduct an initial assessment to understand the current state of your business in terms of ESG factors, identify key areas where improvements can be made. The second point is goal setting. So set realistic and achievable goals for ESG integration. The prioritization or prioritize areas that aligned with your business values and have the most significant impact. And the third step is planning. So develop a detailed plan outlining the steps to achieve your ESG goals and allocate resources to assign responsibilities. In terms of planning, there are tools already that are quite accessible. They are not enterprise licenses that are quite expensive. But today in the market exist already certain tools that you can use to plan the ESG goals and to allocate resources into this. So pretty much it's a program management, program management tool. And I haven't checked any of them in deep yet, but if I have any that I think that might worth look into it, well, all of them might worth look into it. I say that actually that I implemented myself, and then I can report back to say how it works. So far, we haven't done it, so when I have it, I'll share it. The fourth step is implementation. So start with small manageable projects. So don't go wild, if you may, even if it can be exciting. But engage employees and stakeholders in the process to ensure the buy-in and support. And this is an example. A small, I wouldn't say small, but actually, yeah, well, 5 people, photography studio. There were portraits, family portraits, some corp activities, some, like for web pages, or actually one of the customers, I believe was a food and health or a national organization or something like that. So they had 5 people in the studio, in the payroll, plus including the owner and the main photographer. And in terms of implementation, they started with something that was quite interesting. So they started replacing all the bulbs, but they haven't replaced all the bulbs by LED and more sustainable and eco-friendly bulbs, low consumption, etc., etc. They did a plan that as the bulbs were gone, they will start to replace them as they were along. And the other thing that they started to do was in terms of the heaters of the studio. So instead of changing all the heaters in one go, they were looking into the different spaces and environments, and they say, what is the most efficient way to get the heaters or the heating system work better? And this was conversation that they had once every second week or so, and people would bring ideas, etc. And what they found is because all the walls were, they didn't need an isolated environment room to room. They, by the suggestion of a company, if they had a heating system, the challenge was to display the heating system across all the studios. So it was quite cold in the winter. But surprise, surprise, they were all drywall. So what they've done was to, with the same heater that they have in the main reception, which is was the warmest room in the whole studio that has several rooms, because they had drywalls. The supplier, the engineer, they say, well, you have drywalls, so you can carve a piece of the drywall on the top, because the heat tends to go up, and then they can transfer the heat from room to room. So if you do this, the heat distribution will go across the whole building. It will take a while, but actually you will see that in time, like a week or 2 or 3 weeks, you will start to notice that temperature in all the rooms are start to get more even. And you won't have a reception area, a main room, extremely hot, and then the rest of the building freezing. You will start to see that actually naturally the heat start to distribute across the building. And anyway, and they implement another clever things that with small funds to distribute faster, etc., etc. Anyway, that's a 5-person organization, and in a year, and they were also, by the way, not only documenting all what they were doing, also they would start to publish in the webpage all the things that they were doing. So the people were like saying, "Oh, nice! So you're really caring about the environment. You're really caring about things. Actually, it's not just a cost reduction; it's a better distribution of the resources. Also, it's a capacity to show people that say, yes, we are doing it at the pace that we can do it." And anyway, so that's a nice little example of how a very, very micro enterprise also, if they put some ideas, creativity, and ask people around, they can get a very interesting results there. And obviously, it's the monitoring and reporting that we mentioned there. So establish the metrics and track progress, and regulatory reports of regularly reporting on ESG performances and to the stakeholders. So this is what I mentioned. So the guys were documenting and putting the webpage their adventure into sustainability and efficiencies. So in terms of sustainability strategies, also we are looking to this. We have a few steps that I would like to mention. So resource efficiently. So implement energy saving measures and waste reduction programs, and consider renewable energy sources and sustainability materials. On the community engagement, build a strong relationship with local communities and support local initiatives to consider community needs in business decisions, as we mentioned the community center earlier. And in the economic resilience, diversify revenue streams to mitigate economic risks, like retailers that today can start to explore online sales or engagement with customers through online services, just to make sure that the people has a fast and rapid response, even if it's automated, but at least they have a knowledge base where they can look into if they need to. And obviously invest in employee development and retention. So let's look into another few things that will be interesting. For example, the impact of financial performance on the economic benefits of ESG and sustainability. So this is coming from various studies that have shown that companies with strong ESG and sustainability practices often perform better financially than other companies. And these benefits can include the cost saving, that we mentioned, this micro studio, photography studio, with energy efficiency and waste reduction to lead to significant cost savings. Risk mitigation, proactively managing environmental and social risk can prevent costly disruptions and legal issues. And access to capital, we mentioned this. It's very important to companies to have access to capital as fast as they need it, or when they more intelligently manage companies, they have access to capital before they need it. And let's look into supporting data and reports. This is a 2015 study by the University of Oxford and Arabesque partners that found that 88% of renewed sources show that solid ESG practices result in better operational performance. So additionally, 80% of studies show that a good sustainability practice positively influence stock price and performance. What is saying these studies is that there is a benefit in looking into these kind of things, not only in the terms of profitability, sustainability, long term, also in how the public is perceiving. Public, I mean consumers and investors or banks or financial institutions, how they perceive your organization, and all obviously create a kind of a snowball effect that is getting better in terms of operating more efficiently, better access to capital, consumers' perceptions, etc. So we mentioned a lot of things. We cannot forget about the regulatory landscape. And why we like the regulatory landscape? Because one, we know what are the rules, so there's no ambiguity. That's number one. Number two, we cannot go against the regulation. But SMEs, I believe today have a massive opportunity because they are not forced to be compliant as large enterprises. So, I'm repeating myself, but actually looking what the large enterprises are forced to do probably is not the right word. It's not very nice, but actually they are required by regulators to do. SMEs have a massive opportunity here to anticipate that with a less pressure to must do kind of pressure. Anyway, so understanding the regulatory landscape is crucial for SMEs, I guess, to ensure compliance and avoid penalties. So key regulations. In Europe, the EU Non-Financial Reporting Directive requires large companies to disclose non-financial information, which includes ESG-related data. So there you are. So having that in mind and looking into these kind of reports and what is required for large enterprises probably would be a good idea to put it at the back of your mind and say, probably we need to look into that 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, but at least to have an idea that this is eventually coming. And in the United States, very similarly, the SEC has guidelines for companies to disclose climate-related risk and other ESG factors. And here we have to do a distinction. A guideline is not enforceable. So when you have guidelines, you might or might not report. Most of the company reported, but here's the biggest challenge. Because it's a guideline, there is not a clear set of things that have to be reported. A guideline can be interpreted, if you may, and that also creates some challenges. So be careful when you have a reporting directive, like in the European Union, and guidelines like the SEC in the United States. So there are differences between regions too. So there are varying approaches to ESG and sustainability regulations. So SMEs must stay informed about local requirements and seek legal advice when necessary. So then you have to look also in technology advancements. So emerging technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things are revolutionizing ESG and sustainability practices. These technologies can enhance transparency, improve data accuracy, and enable efficient resources for management. Also, you have to consider the society changes. So the consumers' preferences are shifting towards more sustainable and ethical produced products. So businesses that align with these preferences are likely to gain a competitive edge. Remember Ben & Jerry's as the ice cream, or Patagonia as the gear manufacturer. So in terms of the role of technology and innovation, the play in technology these are some examples. So the blockchains to ensure transparency and trustability in supply chains. The blockchain is, I think, today is like AI 3 years ago. It was like everybody knew that was there. Today, AI is like in every home is used a version of artificial intelligence on purpose. Blockchain, I think that in time will be like that. Today is mentioned, it's only mostly associated with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies, but blockchain for business is a massive resource for transparency and traceability of everything. AI and machine learning, as we mentioned, helps to do predictive analysis and modeling to an efficient resource management. And the Internet of Things is the interconnectivity of absolutely everything that enables real-time monitoring and environmental impacts. So I don't know if you're aware now, in farming, particularly large farming, there are sensors everywhere that provide data to these centers where they have reports in terms of humidity, pH of the ground. Anyway, a series of data related to how the let's say the environment is playing in that particular place, and with that a very complex algorithm calculate what kind of resources that ground needs. Is more water, is more other kind of pesticides or not pesticides, or they need to increase the pH with a plane that spray certain things over the ground. So the Internet of Things actually is quite impressive. How is also satellite monitoring of certain areas, in particular in farming and fishing. Anyway, it's everywhere. As the same as AI, probably today people know about it, very industry orientated, but at one point, I think it will be as common as AI today in every home and used for something. Anyway, and obviously is the stakeholder engagement and communication. So engaging with stakeholders is essential for successfully implementing ESG and sustainability practices. Effective communication helps build trust and support. And so there's three things actually mostly are recommended in communications or effective communication. One is transparency, the second is consistency, and the third is inclusivity. In terms of transparency, be open about your goals, progress, and challenges. Inconsistency is regularly update stakeholders and your ESG and sustainability efforts. And inclusivity involves stakeholders in decision-making and seek for feedback. Now, reaching out the end of this video today. Thank you very much for that, to being here for that long. But this is what I hope I achieved the aim, which is understanding the differences between ESG and sustainability, and how impacts SMEs, or the aiming to improve their risk management strategies. So ESG focuses on specific criteria related to environmental, social, and governance factors, providing frameworks for identifying and mitigating risk. And sustainability on the other side encompasses a broader approach to ensuring long-term viability and minimal negative impact on society and the environment. So implementing ESG and sustainability practices can lead to numerous benefits for SMEs, including enhanced reputation, better access to capital, and improved operational resilience. Additionally, the segregation of duties remains a vital component of internal controls, helping to prevent fraud, ensure accuracy, and enhance accountability. So, anyways, by adopting these practices, SMEs can not only navigate the challenges of today's market, but also contribute positively to society and the environment, ensuring the long-term success and sustainability. Right. Thank you very much for staying to the end of the video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.